You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Business owners and entrepreneurs, do you feel like you're not achieving as much as you possibly could? Or maybe you're becoming the own bottleneck in your own business? With us today is a special guest, Daniel Hauge. He is the entrepreneur and best-selling author. His company, Passion for Achievement, wants to help you unlock your potential, give you clarity, and provide the next steps so you can take your business to the next level. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It's going to be a great talk.
Absolutely. We were chatting a bit before more about your history, what you do, and how you help people. Can you walk us through your first steps within entrepreneurship? You've been in business for 8 years, and then kind of go into a little bit about how that helped you start what you're doing today?
Absolutely. So a very long story. I was very off track early on in life. I wasn't really working, wasn't really going to school. I was hanging around kind of the wrong people. I was really off track. I was not living a healthy life. And so one day I just realized either I'm going to continue down this path, which is not going to end well, or I'm going to turn things around. The caveat is if I'm going to turn things around, I want to truly build my version of a world-class life. I'm not going to turn things around just to get a tolerable life or a decent job. I'm going to turn things around, actually make a life that is worth living. And so first I started just falling in love with personal growth. I started out getting some jobs. I was working as a cashier, as a dishwasher, a warehouse worker. Every single dollar I made, I was living at home at the time, so I didn't really have any expenses. So I just poured my money into personal growth books and courses. And I really just fell in love with that. And then with that, I kind of realized this entrepreneurship thing was probably going to be a big part of me building a world-class life. For some reason, it just seemed like personal growth and entrepreneurship went hand in hand because everyone I was studying personal growth from was an entrepreneur, and every entrepreneur I looked up to was pretty big on personal growth. So I just felt like there's something here, there's a connection. So ever since then, I've just been obsessed and passionate with personal growth, with entrepreneurship, and the combination or kind of the link between those two. So I started out just sharing what worked for me. So when I found some personal growth stuff that worked, which a lot of it didn't, a lot of it I would read or try it, that's not for me. But when I found something that truly worked, I would share it with people. This could be a simple PDF I would write, or a free video, or a free Facebook post, whatever it may be. And people received it. I was very happy to have that they received it. They were asking for more, and they told me that they'd be trying these things and they would be working. So that kind of, with time, turned into Passion for Achievement. And then eventually I wanted to write a book. Basically the same idea. I'm going to put the things that worked for me into a little collection of sorts, and then I'm going to just share that with people. And really, I never really stepped forward and said, look, I'm a guru. I'm an expert with 40 years of experience. I'm the one you should all just listen to. I was basically just a student who would like to share what he found to be working. And that's kind of the same thing I'm doing today, still, even though it's 8 years ago that I started Passion for Achievement. So that's how it all came to be.
Nice. That's wonderful. And I love the story and the fact that you are actually applying these tips and tricks that first needed to be applied to yourself that you could then share with other people so they could take that along in their journey. And with Passion for Achievement, it started with this more, free value, free content, anything that can help an entrepreneur along in their journey and lift them up. This was your focus. And that's a lot of what we want to teach in great marketing is to give more than you receive first. People will think of you more and then want to work with you more. A lot of the entrepreneurs that you've worked with, what are some of the biggest challenges that they kind of come to you with and say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me with this? And then what are some of the steps that you take to resolve that issue for them?
Absolutely. So first of all, I would like to say that there's a very big difference between what the clients are coming to me and saying their problem is versus what I believe their actual problems often are. So that's obviously what we go through first is we kind of talk about what is actually happening. Usually what the person is struggling with is they're not doing what they know they should be doing. So maybe they're not working hard enough, or they're not working the right things, or they're not seeing the results they're looking for. Oftentimes it's this idea that I should be doing more than I should be achieving, and they're just not. So there's a very clear understanding of a lack of performance. So oftentimes this will be procrastination. They'll state, oh, I'm just a procrastinator. I'd love to eliminate procrastination. Sometimes it's more like a stress / overwhelm kind of thing. It's like, okay, I have to market and I have to check my emails. I have to do that podcast. I have to create a course. I have to, oh, when do I do what? And what's the priority and all these things. So it can be a bit of an overwhelm. And yeah, just overall, I would say it's just all a lack of being very intentional and very clear, and a lack of systems is what's causing all of this.
Absolutely. As entrepreneurs, we have to wear so many hats. We have to learn it all of ourselves. Otherwise, we have to pay someone to do it. And that's not always an option for us. So when we're trying to get everything done and we feel like we're not doing enough, we do need that clarity. And coaches, consultants can really help provide that structure and foundation that we need in order to work with more intent, in order to be more productive and actually feel like we're putting something worth of value out to people. With the systems that you're referring to, are these more like software systems? Or is this a guided step-by-step process? Is this like a 8, 12 week course or system that you put people through? What do you mean by the systems?
So systems, maybe I'll go back a little bit. So the first thing I usually work with people on is clarity. And what I mean with clarity is we got to get crystal clear in and out of business on what exactly we're trying to do. So back when I had to turn my life around, I had to find out, okay, I want to build a world-class life. What is a world-class life? And how detailed and specific can I get about that? And the same thing about business. When you're building a business, how specific and detailed can you get about what it is that you're trying to do? So some people will come up to me and they'll say, oh, Daniel, I wish I had more money. Okay, here's $1, right? You made it. What's next? What I would love to hear is, hey, Daniel, I would like to do 80K a month in revenue with a 70% margin by selling these 2 products here. Right? That's very specific. And then I would ask, cool, how are we going to do that? Instead of saying, well, I'll use marketing, you could say, well, I'll go on 7 podcasts per month. I will spend $1,500 per month in Instagram ads and then this much. And so just basically get really clear on exactly what you're trying to do and how and why and with whom and when. And this clarity alone will take away a lot of the overwhelm and confusion and the doubt and even like the lack of confidence, because sometimes as entrepreneurs we can't really trust ourselves, especially if it's something you're very new to. But you can trust the process. So you don't have to trust in yourself perhaps, but trust that the Facebook ads that you're making right now, you're making them after whatever, you really put effort into it and that work out because maybe you have a mentor, book or whatever. So what I'm saying is with clarity, a lot of these negative things will disappear. And then when you have clarity on what it is that you want, whether that's in business or it's outside business, a gap emerges, right? So there's a gap between where you are right now and where you'd like to be. Then what we do is we identify what are certain activities that you can do that would take you from where you are right now closer to that thing you want, right? So, for example, this year, what I really want to do is build my personal brand. What's one thing that could get me closer to a bigger personal brand? Well, podcasting. So I decided to go on a podcast tour. And so now my system is for at least an hour per day, I am sending out podcast outreaches to podcasts I believe would be incredible to be on, such as yours. And I'm doing that for an hour per day. And that results in me being on a lot of podcasts. And that results in me growing my personal brand. So I'm very clear on what I'm trying to do. And then I build a system around that. So a system outside of business could be, let's say we've identified, okay, my version of a world-class life. I had these kind of pillars of these values that I want to build my life around. One of those pillars is health. What does health mean? Well, it means muscle mass for me. It means no pain. And it means whatever it means for you, right? And you pick one of those and you say, okay, I'll work on the muscle mass thing. Cool. What's the activity that you can take to bridge the gap between where you are right now, muscle mass wise, and where you'd like to be? Well, an activity like that could be weightlifting. Cool. Then we build a system around that. So instead of saying, I'll go to the gym when I feel like it and when I have the energy and when the stars are aligned, you can build a system around it. And you can say, okay, I will lift weights for 40 minutes on my way home from work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's the system. And let me tell you, I know this from the gym as well, but also in business. The person that has a system like that will achieve in 3 months what everyone else will achieve in probably 3 years, sometimes 5 years. So the systems is huge. And all of this goes for a lot of business, right? Whether you're trying to advertise or market, or maybe it's an operations issue you're trying to fix. What's something you can do that will better your situation here in the way that you desire? And how do you build a system around that? So you just know it happens every day. So essentially when it's a system, it's kind of like a habit or something that just happens. Some of it you can outsource, obviously.
I think that's so important. A lot of the times with entrepreneurs, we want to achieve things, but we're not specific enough with the goals. And then putting that into action, creating this roadmap that really just decides what we're going to do so that we're laser focused on how we need to achieve that goal. And it's so important. What you brought up, a big piece is the health. And something that I think goes overlooked for many people is we don't realize how much our health plays a role into how our brain functions and how productive that we can be, and just our overall happiness and general well-being. Why do you think health is so important, and are entrepreneurs missing out if they're not taking care of themselves? Are they not operating at max efficiency?
So I've always thought it was kind of interesting when you have like an athlete and he's working out a lot and he's eating right and he's sleeping right and he's stretching and he's doing everything that he can to reduce stress and to just be in a good space mentally, emotionally, and physically. We'll all go, yeah, obviously that's his job. He needs to perform. So he makes it possible to truly be the best that he can be, obviously. But then with an entrepreneur, that's different. I don't think it is. I think if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a solopreneur, you're just getting started, or you're an 8-figure entrepreneur with 60 employees, I think it's fair to say that everyone will benefit from you performing. And so one aspect of performing is having energy mentally, emotionally, and physically. I realized this when I watched an interview once, and this guy was a legend. This guy was superhuman. He was like a huge executive. He had a charity and he had a wife, 4 children. He was still the soccer coach for his son, whatever. He was doing everything. And he was asked, how do you manage your time? And he said, honestly, the difficult part is managing your energy. If you have energy for all of it, you'll have time for it. And I think that's very true because sometimes when I feel like, oh, I don't have time to do that, that's because I don't have the energy to do it. And then I'll be on my phone for an hour on social media and then I don't have the time. Really, it was the energy. So one aspect of performance, I think, is energy, and I think health is just a very big part of it. And so I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like our health or an activity like going to the gym is in competition with our business. Oh man, that hour I spent in the gym, I could have spent cold calling. I could have spent checking emails. And I've been there so much. I've had periods of time where I'm like, no, I have to finish this launch or whatever, and then I'll take care of my health again. Problem is my productivity will just be cut in half. I'm not half as confident as it normally is. Everything is just crumbles. And what I will tell entrepreneurs like that, and tell myself when I'm in those situations, which unfortunately I'm now pretty consistent with my health. But Barack Obama, when he was on his presidential campaign, that is probably the busiest you can be as a human being. Like you have every single minute accounted for in your calendar. And he would work out for an hour per day, even during his campaign. And all his people and his consultants, all these advisors would say, do you need to do that? And he said, give me that hour and I will be so much better for the remainder of the day. When we see people like Kevin Hart and The Rock, and we just see these people that are close to being billionaires, they have like a gazillion things they're doing, and they still just work out for an hour or two per day. And this is what I tell myself when I try to convince myself that I don't need to work out. If presidents and billionaires invest an hour of their time every day into working out, into their health, that's an hour they could have made another $1 billion or they could have saved the country or whatever. They still take that hour and invest into their health. And I think the hour that I'm going to invest into my health is probably not as important as those guys. So I can definitely do it. Right. So yeah, I just think this idea that entrepreneurs don't need to take care of their health, I think it's a shame because once we actually dial these things in for our clients, and this is not like full on meal plans or anything, it's just some simple systems that we implement in a way where it's not competing with your business, but it gives to your business and to your life. And it's just their results and their bottom line, it's skyrockets while they're feeling better, while they get more confident, while other key aspects of their other key areas of their lives are thriving. And it's just a great thing all around.
I love that, and it's something that we overlook too often. And if the billionaires and presidents can make this happen and are putting such an emphasis on this, we need to make more time and stress that importance to make time for that just so we can be at the top of our game as much as we can. Now, you had mentioned earlier about these pillars. What was it, the 7 pillars? Can you go more into what those are and why they're so helpful for entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So what I believe is when we're building our version of a world-class life, our ideal life, I believe we should build that around our most important values. And these are what I call pillars. So we all have different values. For some people, it may be freedom. For others, it may be more of a sense of security and comfort. For me, a very big one is confidence and self-respect. I know if I have that, my overall life is better than if I don't have it. But other people, maybe it's not that important. My mother, she doesn't care about like being the best. She just wants everyone to be happy with her and then just so we're all different. And if you get really clear on your values and then you dive deeper into kind of what I call the layers of those values. So let's say health is a value that's important to you. You can dive deeper into that and say, what is health? What do I need to happen for me to feel like I have my health? Is that muscle mass? Is that my physique? Is that not being in pain? Is it a certain weight? You could do the same thing with the one that I just gave as an example, my self-respect. What is that? Is that, for me, that is if I know I'm doing my best at work or just in general. It's also a little bit about how I look and it's a little bit about how I perform socially, right? How am I doing socially? How am I doing in dating life? Stuff like that. So you can kind of dive deeper into these values. So a lot of entrepreneurs will build their business because they want to have freedom. And then I'll ask them, okay, cool. What kind of freedom would you like? Are we talking a freedom of location? I have that. So everything I've done today, I could have done from a cafe in Bali or a hotel in Tokyo. I have freedom of location. Maybe you want freedom of your time. Maybe you want freedom of decision, right? Being able to actually make decisions. A lot of people in jobs don't have that. So they build a business to actually be able to make decisions. If you know these things are very important to you, let's take the freedom of location thing. But then now you've built a company with an office culture that requires you to be in the office 60 hours per week. You're actively going the 180 opposite direction of what you want every time you're growing that business, right? That's burnout, that's stress, that's a lack of passion, that's a lack of productivity, because now you kind of know, maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, that it's the more it grows, the less you have of what you actually want. This is also where we will see people, where we'll see leaders be pissed at their employees for no reason, because these employees are actively taking the thing they want away from you. And that's when we see it. We go in and we kind of dial that business in to fit with the person's values in life. And many people will say this is kind of woo-woo or hocus pocus. It may be, but the results aren't. Like the productivity, it's crazy to see. And not just the bottom line, but also the owner of the business will actually enjoy the business again and enjoy life again. And this breaks my heart. I've seen 8-figure entrepreneurs close their doors on maybe brick and mortar or maybe a software company, whatever, because everything else in their life is just crumbling because of the business. Imagine building an 8-figure company. It takes you maybe, let's say, 10 years, and now you have to say, I can't do it anymore. That's where I feel like if I had been there maybe 6 months prior to in doing that, we would have turned around. It would have been a great thing. So yeah, these values are very important to get clear on and then kind of design your life and business around them. And then that's why I wrote a PDF called The 7 Pillars of a World-Class Life. It's basically a clarity tool for entrepreneurs looking to design their version of a world-class life. The 7 pillars are my take on my 7 values that I try to create my life around. I'm sure some of them you will have the exact same, such as values like health, a lot of people want. But then maybe there are other values where you go, no, I want the opposite. That's great. So it's a clarity tool you can grab, the passion for achievement. That's what my values are about.
That is wonderful. Now, for those who are interested in finding out more about your offer and getting connected with you, where can they find this special offer you have and get connected with you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for some help with the clarity, I think that PDF is a really, really good place to start. It's called, like I said, The 7 Pillars for World-Class Life, and it's on my website, Passion for Achievement. So that's the number 4, passion, the number 4, achievement.com. And also there you can book a 100% free strategy session, consulting call, whatever you want to call it. With me, it's just 45 minutes where I just look at your situation. I look at what you want to achieve and how you want to increase your performance, what kind of pain points you have. And then I will just do everything that I can to help you out and point you in the right direction. Maybe that's working with me, maybe it's not. But regardless, I'll point you in the right direction. If you're not interested in any of that, you just want to follow me along, see if you can get to know me a little bit better, you can follow me on Instagram. My username is I am Daniel Hauge. I'll be posting a ton of content on the stuff that we're talking about here today. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll also have the links available down in the show notes and description there for anyone who wants quick access links right to his profiles there after the 8 years in business. If you could redo things over again and say, man, if I just did this sooner or changed this a little bit differently, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs that you would do over again or put more focus on?
oh, that's a great question. So I think I would reverse engineer my learning and growth. So what I mean with that is when the first many years I started in business, but also before business, when you're just in school, what a lot of people are trying to do is you just learn, learn, learn. I'll learn a little bit of that and that and that and that. And then hopefully it will be of some use later, right? We know that about school, but a lot of entrepreneurs do that as well. And I did that. I read a little bit about YouTube organic marketing, a little bit about Instagram ads, a little bit about Facebook groups, a little bit about how you create a value ladder. And I just read a little bit about all these things. And as long as I was reading or learning something that I could in some way, shape, or form connect to business, then I felt productive. I felt like I was progressing. And I think learning is great, but I think we can be more intentional about it. So I think a better thing to do is you build your business. If you don't have a product, you study how to create a product. And then if you have a sales problem, you study how to overcome objections, how to kind of warm up the person before he's on the sales call. You kind of study these things. If you have a problem with your marketing, you study marketing or you go to a person that knows how to solve those marketing problems. So I think if you have a problem or you have some kind of bottleneck, some kind of weak link in your company or your life, and you point at it and you say, that right there, this very specific is the weakest link of my life or my business right now. What do I need to learn to fix that? And then you learn that and then you fix it and then you move on to the next weak link. So be very intentional with what you're learning and how you're growing. So it's not just I'm learning, so I'm moving forward. Unnecessary.
I think that's a great point to make because I myself am absolutely guilty of that. I just love to learn and I'm thinking, oh, this will be helpful for me later down the road. I don't think people realize that if you just learn something without writing it down or speaking about it or taking action, you're only 30 to 50% likely to actually retain that information. But the percentage actually increases anytime you talk about it, write about it, and it goes all the way up to 90% retention rate if you actually take action on it. And again, I think it's one of those things that we need to make sure that the education that we're giving to ourselves does not become shelf help, but it actually becomes actionable insights that we can take with us. Now, Daniel, are there any YouTube channels, podcasts, books, or mentors of yours that you would recommend for other people to check out to say this person really inspired me or gave me some tools or knowledge that really took my business to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm probably not going to be super original here, but I think Alex Hamosi is really onto something. I think a lot of what he says makes sense. And he said something that completely changed a lot of how I go about things, which this idea of optimization versus maximization. So he's a maximizer and I've always been an optimizer. And what that means is that saying, if you want to chop down a tree, you have 6 hours to do it, you should spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. Now, I'm certainly, as you can tell by this episode, I'm certainly an optimizer. I want the entrepreneur to be in a good state. I want him to have his sleep. I want him to be healthy. I want him to have energy. I want him to be in an environment that allows him to perform. I want to optimize all these things. Where Alex Hormozi is a little bit more about just do the thing a lot. So anyway, what he said was a lot of people are trying to get the most bang for their buck. Sometimes it's just about getting the most bucks. And I listened to that and I was like, that is really, really good. So what that changed in me, and that's something really changed my mind about lately, is I used to try and sharpen my axe to have the sharpest possible axe. Now I'm sharpening my axe to chop down the most amount of trees. So I'm still sharpening my axe. I'm still getting my sleep. I'm still doing my supplements. I'm still stretching. I'm still meditating. I'm still optimizing. But I'm now doing it to get the most amount of value out to the world instead of being the most optimized that I can be. And that's a pretty big change. I think Alex Mosi is a legend. He has some things I disagree with. A lot of it is gold.
Yeah, same here. I agree with you. I think he brings a lot of insight and value. And I love the way that he breaks down value as an equation. And I think it's really important for us to look as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small, medium sized business owners who want to be more effective in our life and our business to look at other resources like Alex Hermosi. You don't have to agree with everything, with anything you look at on the internet or read, but it's important to take that information and then apply it to your life in the way that helps you the most. Daniel, I appreciate all the insight that you've shared with us today and telling us more about your journey. We appreciate you taking the time and really looking forward to the future success and seeing you grow. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been a great, great talk.
Thank you so much.